Yeah, well, that's a whole nother podcast.
So we'll get into that. But why is zone 3 this like mysterious zone? So once I start to turn the corner, so remember once we pass that talk test, my breathing rate is now increasing because my body needs more oxygen. I'm starting to run at a higher intensity. Now my slow twitch fibers can't handle the job by themselves. So when I'm running at low intensity, my slow twitch fibers, which are really fatigue resistant, that's why we have to spend a long time doing low intensity, because your slow twitch fibers take a long time to overload. So your slow twitch fibers in a little Tabata, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, are not going to be fatigued and they're not going to be overloaded because those suckers can go all day. So that's why duration is the greatest training stimulus for low intensity. That's why it's so frustrating. But when we delve into zone 3, so let's say my zone 3 starts at 150 beats per minute to make it simple. Now, as I get to that 155, 150, 60, I'm working harder, so I feel like I'm more training hard. I'm like, here I go. My heart's beating, my legs are burning. You're kind of putting out a good pace, but it's not so, you're right, it's that comfortable, hard fun.
Yeah.
Now our slow twitch fibers can't do it by themselves, and we can't necessarily just rely on burning fat, because remember, fat is our low intensity fuel. One of the benefits of doing lots of low intensity training is you can utilize fat at higher intensities. And fat provides way more energy than carbohydrate. So fat is 9 kilocalories per gram and carbs are 4. So fat is superior, and endurance athletes actually near maximal intensities can use fat, which is why they can run at such fast paces.
Because they've trained their body to burn fat first. Because they've trained
their body to utilize fat at increasingly higher intensities. That's why when you go low intensity, you need to stay low intensity. Because when I'm training high intensity, I'm training my body to get good at, or to be optimal at burning sugar. So I'm actually turning my body into a sugar adapted body, so to speak. I'm not getting my body better utilizing fat as much.
Yeah.
So in zone 3, now we've got kind of our other fibers starting to hop in. So we're now starting to get a little bit of more lactate accumulation. Now, so people know lactic acid doesn't exist in the body. It actually dissociates immediately to lactate. Lactate is used as a fuel in the body. So lactic acid does not cause the burn in your muscles. In fact, lactate takes on a hydrogen ion and basically buffers it, so it actually helps you exercise for longer. So lactate is actually a fuel that is used by your heart. It's used everywhere in the body. It's actually a super fuel. So when we get to zone 3, we're going to start to see lactate build up more because we're starting to train at higher intensities. And just like during rush hour, what happens at rush hour? More stop and go traffic, baby, right? More cars get stuck on the road. So just like that, cars can't get on and off the highway. Traffic builds up. That's like zone 3, zone 4. We're putting more intensity into the system and it can't clear it as much. And I could get really sciencey, but I won't. Zone 4 is what intervals actually are. So zone 4 is when we start to do that hard. Zone 4 is like you're going hard, right? You're not doing more than an hour of zone 4 in a day. Like that'd be crazy. People get zone 4 and 5 confused. Zone 4 is your sweet spot. That's when you are trying to maximize intensity. Because zone 5, I think it's easy to understand what zone 4 is. If you look at zone 5 is you're going to sprint for 10 seconds, all out. All out. Actually, zone 5 is enjoyable because you can only do it for maybe 5.
Zone 5 is a Fran.
Zone 5 is the best because you can just admit the wheels are going to fall off and it's amazing.
Yeah.
But most athletes need, we don't need much zone 5 training because it's more primal. Think about this. If there was a fire in my house right now and like my house was exploding, do you think I need to go do like 5 weeks of interval training to get out of my house? No, my body's going to dump adrenaline. I'm going to get out of there. Now our body gets better at that. So if we come back down, that zone 4 is really where we're going to maximize intensity. But the problem is it's hard. And everyone that says they love hard training actually loves zone 3 training. Because when you start doing zone 4, what happens is people do not have a good enough aerobic base, zone 1 and 2, to be able to stay up here because they don't have endurance. They can't support it from the bottom up. It's like holding someone from the bottom up. So they get to zone 4. They have no ability to support from their aerobic capacity. So they get to zone 4, so they get their heart rate up in that 170, 180. But then within 30 seconds, they're back down to zone 3. So they just fall off of it. They can't hang there. So what you're going to see with a lot of people is when it's time to go hard, excuse me, they can't hang there. It's because they haven't built their base, so their peak can't be sustained. It's a pyramid. The bigger the base, the higher the peak. The larger the roots, the more it can support the branches. So when people haven't built a proper aerobic base, what you're going to see is they go up, they high five hard, then they drop back down to zone 3 and they feel like they're going hard. And those are kind of the 5 zones in a nutshell. But when we're doing those higher intensity zones, there's a cost. You're taxing your type 2 fibers. Those are your fast twitch. Now, why is that so important to know? Those are the ones you're strength training when you lift heavy. So you're using the same adaptation currency when you do a hard sprint like a 400. If you're doing a 400 all out, you're using the same muscles and the same adaptation currency and the same energy currency you are when you're doing like 5 heavy deadlifts. So now think, so if I do 5 heavy deadlifts and then I go do more high intensity intervals running, can you see how that adds up in terms of my recovery cost?
Oh yeah, you're going to need a lot more time to recover.
You're smashing your system all the time. So your capacity actually shrinks and you're never watering your roots. And then we already talked about last time, no one's taking care of their joint health because it's an afterthought. And it's something that people just, when they do go, they just relax and they don't work. So now we see all these compounding problems where running can be thought of 2 ways. We can think about the bones, muscle, tissue, joints. That's kind of the biomechanics. And then we have the energy systems. And together, those combine, and those are going to make me faster, better at running. But that's why it's this, and people don't want to hear this just because they think there has to be another way. But here's an easy test to see if you've done too much high intensity training. So go run a mile as fast as possible. Breathe through your mouth and nose, go for it. Then recover. Obviously, that might be a day or 2 or a couple days, or you do it the next week. And then the next time, you have to work on both times, you need a chest strap or heart rate monitor. The next time you're going to go, you're going to put water in your mouth. Water in your mouth, completely full. You have to breathe out of your nose, and you have to stay below a heart rate of 180 minus your age.
Oh.
And every time you start going above that, or if you feel the need to, right, or if you can't breathe out your nose, obviously, if you can't breathe out your nose, like wait till you can that particular day.
If you're a little congested.
And then look at the difference between the miles. I think you'll be astounded. So when you're doing that second mile with the water in your mouth and nasal breathing, you are now limiting yourself to the zone 1, 2. You are now limiting yourself to your slow twitch fibers, kind of, right? More so. You're limiting yourself to how much you can oxidize fat versus burn into sugar. And it's going to really show you how slow you can actually go without the help of those other systems. So basically, we call that ADS, or aerobic deficiency syndrome, when someone has done so much intensity work, but they've forgotten to build the roots or grow the roots. And it's not a bad thing. And I think people think I'm saying like everyone needs to run ultra marathons, do 20 hours of low intensity cardio. No.
I don't get that at all.
Think if you just added 1 hour of low intensity, that'd be 5 more hours in your work week. Most people would be a monster just by adding in like a couple, 30-minute sessions at like a specific intensity. But some people are so strong, they can't do it running, because what you'll find is a lot of people do that breathe through the nose, water in the mouth test, and they can't even run. And so now what you're telling yourself is when you're even going for a light jog, you're not really staying in that zone 1, 2 and training low intensity, and you're taxing the bejesus out of your body.